microphone's not there. Try again. Yeah, it's the first time on the job. Hello. Welcome back to the channel. It's time to predict every result of the World Cup. If you're new around here, consider subscribing. Drop me a like on the video. And if you want to, comment your match results. But there's 48 of them, so I probably wouldn't bother wasting your time. So match number one, we have got England versus New Zealand on the 5th of October. Match number one of 48. I'm going to suggest that England are going to get their campaign off to a winning start. Pakistan versus the Netherlands. Should be an easy win for Pakistan. Bangladesh versus Afghanistan. A bit harder to choose between these two, I think. I'm going to go Bangladesh. I'm going to play it safe. South Africa versus Sri Lanka. Sneakily, I'm going to say Sri Lanka. 8th of October, India versus Australia. Possibly like one of the biggest games of the World Cup so early in the competition. I'm going to say that home crowds, home advantage, they're going to be confident after the ODI series. I'm going to say India are beating Australia. New Zealand versus the Netherlands, just give me NZ. England versus Bangladesh, bit trickier, but I'm going to say that England are going to win that one. Pakistan versus Sri Lanka, I'm going Pakistan again. Revenge after the end of that match at the Super Fours. India versus Afghanistan. Again, I don't think Afghanistan are going to be easy to beat, but I look at this India team and it's going to be too strong, so I'm going for India. Australia versus South Africa. Blimey, Australia have got a tough start to this World Cup, haven't they? I am going to suggest, I'm going to say, with that bit of prep against India pre-World Cup, I'm going to say Australia are going to beat South Africa. New Zealand versus Bangladesh. I'm going to say Bangladesh. I reckon Saqib's going to have an absolute worldie of a game. 14th of October, the big one, India versus Pakistan. Pakistan don't really beat India in these major competitions. It's hard really to think that that's going to suddenly change, so give me India again. England versus Afghanistan, potential banana skin here. I do think over the course of 100 overs, though, this England team are going to be able to beat Afghanistan. Australia versus Sri Lanka, just give me the Aussies. South Africa versus the Netherlands. Now, this feels like a kind of game that South Africa could cock up, and I don't think it went particularly well for them down in Australia in the T20 World Cup, but having had a couple of defeats in my little prediction anyway, I'm going to say that South Africa get back to winning ways against the Netherlands. New Zealand, Afghanistan. Yeah, let's just go for New Zealand. India versus Bangladesh. They lost that game at the end of the Super Fours of the Asia Cup, but I don't really think India took it particularly seriously. So therefore, I'm going to say that India are going to beat Bangladesh. Australia versus Pakistan. Big game, big players. I'm saying Australia. I'm going Australia again. Netherlands versus Sri Lanka. So the two qualifiers for the World Cup having made their way through that tournament in Zimbabwe. And I just think Sri Lanka are going to be way too strong for the Dutch in this competition. England versus South Africa. It's a massive game. I think South Africa might come out on top actually in this one. And I think that'll be England's defeat in this competition. South Africa win a couple on the bounce. India versus New Zealand. Do I think India are going to go through this whole group stage without losing a game? I'm not convinced they are, but I don't think it's going to be this game. I think they are going to go on and beat New Zealand. Pakistan versus Afghanistan. It's normally a good game between these two countries. The T20 particularly is normally really, really exciting. Again, I just don't see Afghanistan stringing together 100 overs to beat one of these sides at the moment. South Africa versus Bangladesh. I think it's going to be tough. I really do think it's going to be tough. And I think Bangladesh are going to be a hard side to play against, particularly in India. But I do think, I just fancy South Africa. I fancy a bit of South Africa. I fancy some semi-finals for them. Australia versus the Netherlands. Just give me Australia and let's move on. England versus Sri Lanka. I mean, 2019 at Headingley, England lost to Sri Lanka. That was part of that period of the tournament where it wasn't going particularly well for England, and yeah, it was a bit embarrassing to be fair, but Sri Lanka did play really well. 4 years on, again, it is going to be tough. It is going to be tough. Having lost that last game that I've just predicted against South Africa, England are going to need to bounce back, and I'm going to suggest that they're going to beat Sri Lanka. Pakistan versus South Africa. I think South Africa go through them. There you go. High pace from South Africa. All of those guys are fit, assuming they probably are by that point. We don't really know, but I think they run through the Pakistan batting lineup. Australia, New Zealand, or the Trans-Tasman Derby, whatever you want to call it. I'm going to say the Kiwis. I'm going to say the Kiwis pip them. Kiwis will win games in this competition. I'm going to say they're going to beat Australia. Netherlands versus Bangladesh. Potential chance for the Netherlands, to be fair, but I mean, everything will suggest the fact that Bangladesh should beat them. India versus England. This, I think, could be a tough game for India. I am biased, obviously, and before anybody does comment and say you don't know what you're talking about, I mean, we all know that that is true, but I'm going to say that England beat India. I don't see India going through this group stage without losing a game, and therefore I think England are going to turn them over and they're going to beat them. Afghanistan versus Sri Lanka. Do you know what? I'm going to go for an upset here. I am going to go for an upset. I'm going to say, getting towards the end of October, I'm going to say that Afghanistan are going to beat Sri Lanka in this fixture. Pakistan versus Bangladesh. I'm going to say Pakistan. I just think they're going to have too much for them. Into November now, and the 1st of November, the game between New Zealand and South Africa. I'm going to say that South Africa are going to beat the New Zealanders. I really don't see New Zealand having a particularly good tournament. India versus Sri Lanka, I mean, they bowled them out for 50 in the Asia Cup final. They bowled them out for 50 earlier this year in an ODI as well. Let's just have India. Let's move on to the next one because India are going to beat Sri Lanka. Netherlands versus Afghanistan, the potential wooden spoon game here, the one for, well, basically to potentially ensure that either one of these two teams doesn't end up with nil point at the end of the competition. I'm going to say that Afghanistan are going to beat the Netherlands. New Zealand versus Pakistan. Let's go Pakistan again. I just think they're going to be too strong. As I say, I could be completely kind of discrediting the New Zealanders, and they normally have a really good competition when it comes to these major tournaments. But this year, I don't fancy them. I really don't. So Pakistan, I'm going to go for you, and you're going to beat New Zealand. 4th of November, it's the time for the Ashes. England versus Australia. I'm going to say, annoyingly, I'm going to say that Australia are going to beat England in this fixture. India versus South Africa. Again, if India perform the way they should do, teams are just going to really struggle. It's such an intense experience playing against those guys. They've got match winners 1 through 11, and I think India are beating South Africa in this one. Bangladesh v Sri Lanka, again, another potential kind of wooden spoon game, one of those kind of games to separate out the bottom of the table. You know what? I'm going to say that Bangladesh beat Sri Lanka in this one. Afghanistan, Australia, again, 100 overs of cricket. Just give me the Aussies. England versus the Netherlands. Well, we saw how well that went for England last time they played the Dutch, so again, I'm going to say that England are going to just about have enough to beat the Dutch. That is going to come back and bite me. It's going to slap me around the face, and the Dutch are going to win this game. But yeah, let England chalk me up for an England win. New Zealand versus Sri Lanka. I mean, I think by this point in the tournament, neither one of these two teams is going to have the semi-finals really to play for, barring some kind of miracle. Obviously, I'm not calculating net run rate here because I don't think anybody actually understands how that is calculated. But I'm going to say that Sri Lanka are going to beat New Zealand. 4 games to go in the group stage, and the next one on the block is it's South Africa versus Afghanistan. By this point in the tournament, I think South Africa are on a roll. I think they need to win this game to make sure they get through to those semi-finals, and therefore I don't see them slipping up. I really don't. I know they have done in the past, once or twice, but South Africa to beat Afghanistan. Australia versus Bangladesh. Again, potentially a must-win game for Australia to ensure qualification to the semi-finals by this point. I think they'll have enough over the course of a game, over the course of an ODI. So therefore, the Aussies, I believe, will go on and beat Bangladesh in this fixture. Penultimate game of the group stage on the 11th of November is England versus Pakistan. Again, as I've said for the last couple, this could genuinely be a must-win game for potentially both of these two teams with the way that this tournament has played out so far. Quite difficult when you're going through and predict them because it's kind of hard to figure out who's done what and who's won where and how many points they've actually got. But I'm going to say that England are going to beat Pakistan in the penultimate game, ensure their qualification to the semi-finals, and unfortunately for Pakistan, I don't see them making it. And finally, one that I think could be the biggest dead rubber of the competition, India versus the Netherlands. Quite good for scheduling in case there's any doubt for India that they might not get through to those semi-finals to play statistically the worst team in the comp last game of the competition or last game of the group stage. So yeah, without a great deal of thought going into it, I'm going to say that India are going to win. As I say, if you've played along, let me know what you've picked out in the comments. Let me know what you think about my picks. And also, I will, if this video gets, I don't know, what do you reckon, 150 likes? Let's not play too hard to get right now. 150 likes, I'll go through my predictions after the competition, and I'll check and see how close I might have been or just how far away I was.